Welcome to the Feminine Standard, where we build boundaries, balance softness, and become all God created us to be. I pray that you are well today. Let's get into it. So, we are still in Becoming Her Before the Ring series, and this is part two, where we talk about balancing biblical boundaries in dating as Christian feminine women. In order to be a woman who is soft, you're not going to be unguarded, but you are a woman who understands how to protect your peace while staying open to love. If we look at Esther, if we look at Abigail, these are women who had boundaries in place that protected themselves because they understood what their mission was and exactly where they needed to stay focused. When I was pressing in and just asking God if there was anything that He wanted me to discuss, it was in order to stay open in love and not be guarded to put walls up, but instead to use your boundaries as a door so that you can act as a hinge, allowing people in and allowing people to have to leave if they're not someone who can respect your boundaries. When you're staying open to love on this journey in your single season, you need to make sure that you have faith. Having faith in the outcome being ultimately in God's hand and not being too down about, well, there's no good man, or I don't see this, and I'm not really seeing what I want to see, but instead having faith that it doesn't matter what you're currently experiencing or seeing, but that God has the final say. And by putting the boundary up, you are able to say, God, I trust you that even though I'm saying to men that I'm abstinent and I'm not going to be able to date someone who has no interest in abstinence or has never been abstinent prior to me and is actually not very open minded to this journey of abstinence, even though they call themselves a Christian, that it does not mean that I'm not going to find anyone. It just means that God has to prepare and align me with the man that He specifically has for me. It takes trust and faith and full reliance on God to set a boundary and know that whatever happens is going to be up to God and it's going to be in His hand and it's going to be for your good. Even with forgiving yourself, to say, you know what, I forgive myself how in the past I did not set this boundary, I did not stand on business, and I wasn't able to really confidently enforce the boundary of abstinence or enforce the boundary that if someone doesn't really have fruit besides them just claiming Christianity, then I'm not going to take my time to get to know them because there was so much fear there. It's okay. You can now forgive yourself. Take a load off. And boundaries are just something that are very important because it allows people to understand exactly how to behave and how to interact with you. If you're not allowing people to have a clear standard in how they should behave and interact and engage with you, then they're going to treat you the way that they either see you treating yourself or the way that they deem you worthy of. And that might not always be up to the standard that you hold yourself to or the way that you desire to be treated. So by setting standards early on in the dating dynamic, it allows you to set the tone for how this dating is going to go. Yes, the men are supposed to lead, but if he's not your husband, he's only going to be leading but so much. It's going to be more of a balance in how you both are leading, almost leading each other, or really how you both are choosing to interact and engage with one another. So it's perfectly fine for you to set boundaries in dating. And what a boundary is, it's a marker, either whether it's in the sand or it's an actual physical barrier that prevents someone who's on the outside from getting in. And if you think about when Jesus went away from people to go and seek the face of the Lord, He set a very physical boundary. But when we speak of these types of boundaries, we're not telling you to go far off away from all the men. But what we're telling you to do is to make sure that you're setting more of an emotional, spiritual boundary so that that person has an understanding of what you require in order for them to get consistent access to you. And the best way to set these boundaries is by using an if-then statement. For example, if you are unable to respect my body as a temple and you continue to touch me, you continue to try to grab my butt, you continue to try to hug me and squeeze me tight when I've already told you that I'm not comfortable, then I'm going to need to leave. Then I'm going to dismiss myself. If you continue to make sexual comments and jokes, then I'm going to end the conversation, whether that means hanging up the phone or I'm going to excuse myself. These help you communicate to the other person very clearly that if action is done, then reaction or response will be made. And it's a very clear way to communicate that you're not bossing them around, you're not telling them what to do, you're allowing them to exercise their free will to do whatever it is that they want, and letting them know that if they do something that is deemed as disrespectful, inappropriate, or anything that makes you uncomfortable, then this is the action that you're going to do, and this is what they're likely going to receive in response. And that way it's clear, they know it. If they forget it or not, you can determine how many times you're going to allow them to push the boundary before letting them know that it was really nice speaking to you. I have to go, whether that's hanging up the phone or walking away. People don't disrespect your boundary just because they're disrespectful. Sometimes they are just not used to people setting boundaries, so they have to have a learning curve, and there's going to be space and time to adjust. There's a difference though, and that's where you're going to need to rely on God for the gift of discerning and discerning of spirits, because some people will purposely press the boundary and other people will honestly forget because they're maybe not used to someone being so firm in setting a boundary or even so clear that they'll just need to be reminded. And that's going to take you discerning whether or not they're doing it on purpose because they think, oh, she's not serious. These Christian girls, they always say they want to be abstinent, but they're not really serious. Or if he's someone who is just not used to it or just learning you. So having to know, okay, I remember now. She said not to make this comment, even though maybe with his other Christian friends or other people that he's around, they might not be as stern and they might not mind that he makes those types of comments or brings up these topics that for you is inappropriate. So boundaries are all about you communicating to the person, this is what I'm okay with dealing with, and this is what I'm not okay with dealing with. And then you have to constantly remind them this, that's you enforcing your boundaries. So I believe it's Tiffany Buckner, Anointed Fire. She has some really good books on boundaries. And she said that you have to, I believe it's publish the boundary, meaning you're saying the boundary, and then profess the boundary or proclaim the boundary, which is you communicating it, and you have to enforce it. And then when or if they do dismiss you or disrespect your boundary, then you have to be very willing and able to leave and disengage yourself if that person is showing you that they are, in fact, not going to respect your boundary. And I think it's really important for us to remember why we set our boundary. When I set boundaries, I like to think of the feeling that I have when that person is doing the thing that I don't like. And when I remember that feeling, having that boundary is very easy because I know what I don't want to feel. So it puts me in remembrance of what I could feel had I set the boundary. And I mentioned earlier, you want to set the boundary early on because if you keep waiting till after the fact and then you're tolerating the behavior and you're trying to then set a boundary later on, they're not going to take you seriously and they're going to think that if she's not serious about a boundary, why would I take it seriously? People are going to respect you to the point that you usually respect yourself, unless they're just plain out disrespectful people. But most people, they are constantly observing you and seeing what you allow for yourself. And if you allow the bare minimum, and if you allow disrespect, and if you allow yourself to slack and not be held accountable and not have integrity with yourself or keep your own promises, then it's going to be harder for them to take you seriously when you expect them to respect your boundaries. What else did there was something else that I saw on my notes. One thing and the last thing about a heart that is open to love. Your heart during this season of singleness needs to be open for love. And sometimes we're waiting and we're saying, oh, I'm just waiting on God, but we are not checking and testing the nature of our heart to see, do I have triggers? Is my heart growing hardened? Am I hopeless and is my hope deferred? Or am I just actually waiting this thing out the way God tells us, just to be patient, write the vision, make it plain? So, one way that I know that my heart is hardened, even though I'm saying that I believe in God for marriage, is if I can't listen to this one song. There's one song in particular that's on my playlist, and it's essentially a man speaking about the beauty of his wife's love and how if all he has is Jesus and her, he's good. And it's such a beautiful love song, but I know that my heart is hardened towards love and the possibility that it's gonna be happening for me is if I can't sit through that song. If I just get so irritated and I'm like, I gotta change this because what is he talking about? And I don't want to listen to this. That's how I know that my heart is hardened. It's very important to do intentional heart checks. And that could be you asking God, or that can be you picking up on what your triggers are so that way you can work with the Holy Spirit to soften and massage your heart and anoint your heart so that when that person comes, or even before that person comes, you don't have a hardened heart towards men. You don't have a hardened heart towards love and relationship being possible for you, so that when there are opportunities for you to connect with someone, you're not closed off to them. And that's not necessarily a boundary, but it's more so a standard that you can set for yourself to stay open to love and not close off with strict standards that are really just you putting up a wall so that nobody can get in. Your boundaries still need to be realistic and they actually have to speak to a specific issue or problem and not just be so vague that no one would be able to actually honor the boundary. So I hope that you ladies enjoyed this video, and if you are ready to go to the next level in your life, in legacy setting, and in love, the Feminine Standard School is almost open. If you click the link in the description, you can join my mailing list, The Feminine Collective, and get a free ebook on how to spot the 7 biggest mistakes that feminine women make when setting boundaries so that you can have better boundaries, better relationships, and just have a better experience within your life and your love life. I hope you had a good time and I pray that you are blessed all throughout the rest of your day. Bye.